everybody to this symposium on the smart meter. Thank you for coming. My name is Buff Bradley. I'm a resident of Fairfax with my wife, Cindy. This is a huge, important, and urgent issue that we're addressing tonight. We're here to learn more about wireless smart meters and PG&E's plan to provide them for all of its customers, whether they want them or not. This obviously is not the only meeting there will ever be about smart meters. It's not the last meeting. It's a meeting that we hope will be the beginning for many people becoming involved in the issue, and the organizers of the event will, as I said earlier, be back at the back of the room for you to talk with them about getting involved and taking further action. And finally, before we introduce the speakers, I'd like to thank the Fairfax Town Council for making this room available for this event tonight. We have a representative here.
I want to answer a couple of questions. One is, that you may have in your minds. One is, what are smart meters, and why do they want them? They being the California Public Utilities Commission and the investor-owned utilities which are promoting them. The answer to that, it will not surprise you, has a great deal to do with money. But the smart meter is a device which sends information from your house to a central computer run by, in this area, Pacific Gas and Electric. Pacific Gas and Electric uses that information to do what they call load balancing. Load balancing is a process in electricity supply in which the load, which is demanded when you turn on a light, turn on an air conditioner, turn on garbage disposal, any electrical device, energy has to be generated, electricity has to be generated in order to make that thing work. Turn on that light, turn on that device. The problem that PG&E and other investor-owned utilities face during particularly hot, particular times of year, particularly summers, when everyone comes home from work and turns on their air conditioner, is there is a huge demand on the electricity system. And in order to supply that, those utilities have to build very expensive electric power plants, which they only operate maybe a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks out of the year. This is a very expensive proposition for them. So in order to save money, what the utilities want to do is they want to flatten out demand. They don't want to have to build those extra power plants. So this is about this is a plan which is about 1 minute.
2 minutes. Sorry. You're all right. No, you got it.
Are you sure? I thought we were doing 7 minutes. Okay.
Keep going.
That's all right. The way that PG&E is selling smart meters is to sell it as a convenience for you. You are going to be able to monitor your electricity use. That's technically not accurate. They say it's real time. You can tell what your house is doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is not true. What it does do is it gives PG&E the ability to, within fairly short periods of time, understand what demands are coming down the wires to its power plants and to control them, up to and including shutting off appliances in your house and shutting off the electricity to your house. With smart meters, PG&E will be able to shut off your power for any reason. Now, there are a number of problems with smart meters generally, but there are a couple of varieties. There are wired smart meters, there are radio frequency smart meters. So wired smart meters communicate back to PG&E's computer on a wire of some kind. Telephone wires have been used, fiber optic cables have been used. What PG&E and the California utilities are proposing to use are radio transmitters attached to a meter on the side of your house. These transmitters point in two directions. One is out to the rest of what is called a mesh network. All those meters talk to each other and pass information on to the computer back at PG&E. And that's one radio transmitter that operates at one frequency. There is another radio transmitter which is pointed into your house, which eventually will be talking to all your appliances. Yes. PG&E will be able to tell what you are doing any time of day. And anyone else who can sweet talk PG&E into giving them that information. So, to kind of rush to the problems here, we are going to be talking about health issues of microwave radiation from these devices, which is how I got initially involved in this. But there are also, as you can imagine, some privacy issues. There are security issues. Wireless technology is, information technology specialists will tell you that wireless technology is the most insecure, which means that if someone wants to crash the system, they can hack into it, and they can do that through using wireless technology. It also means that someone driving down your street may accidentally put in a cell phone call and crash your dialysis machine. PG&E has taken no consideration of this. And finally, there are safety issues. There have been numerous instances of these wireless smart meters exploding and starting fires. And so I will stop.
Thank you.
I don't want to preach the converted already, so could I have a show of hands of anybody who is unclear that there are health effects from these meters? Anyone who is unsure about there being health effects, can I see your hands? Okay. All right. Now, and how sophisticated are you? Do you know a fair amount about the health effects, you guys? Can I see a show of hands of people who know quite a bit about the health? Okay. All right, so I am preaching. Okay, so most of you know by now, Josh made a point of wanting me to bring this up, that it's very significant that the WHO came out with this new report classifying it as a class 2 carcinogen because they were so sure. It was the gold standard was to talk about how, well, the World Health Organization thinks they're fine. Everyone used to say it. So now there's big jokes being made about how it's in the same category as coffee, but indeed it's also, as you know, in the same category as lead and car exhaust and many other obviously really viciously horrible things for your health. So, we became concerned about all of this 13 years ago when we first started interviewing Cindy Sage. We've looked at all the research. There is no question in my mind about health effects, whether you go back to 4 repeated pieces of research that shows low-level exposures, constant low-level exposures that you get not only from a smart meter, which isn't even really very low level, it turns out, but wireless infrastructure, cell towers, cell phones in your house, wireless routers, is the famous blood-brain barrier studies, which were first done in the 1960s and now have been repeated 4 times. This is a gold standard for health studies. They must show again and again and again that this is the same effect as being proved, and indeed they have. So the blood-brain barrier protects your brain from toxins and chemicals. It's absolutely essential for your brain to have a barrier. The barrier is breached when you're exposed to these technologies. 4 repeated pieces of research that also show that your neurons in your brain die, and this is permanent neuron death, not just the little whoopsie, because you're having a bad day. So the other thing that's a really important thing to remember is we're not only damaging the health, and then DNA strand breaks. What we're finding is that the mechanisms for the damage that's being caused by radio frequency radiation is that the results are similar to what happens when you're exposed to ionizing radiation. The mechanisms are different. So DNA strand breaks, well, cellular damage means cancer, but the mechanisms are different in this case, and the main thing about it, which is really scurrilous and nasty, is that it interferes with DNA's ability to repair itself. Now, it isn't just us that's being affected by this. I mean, obviously children are more affected than grown-ups, but indeed, all the animals and insects and birds that we share the planet with are affected, and plants and shrubs are dying, as Josh let us know by putting it on his website, a bush in front of a bunch of smart meters dying from the inside slowly. So, Cindy Sage recently did a paper where she did some computer modeling, and she looked at the effects of these meters on houses and discovered that depending on the amount of reflection in your house, the amount of radiation that you're getting exposed to becomes higher than what would be compliant with FCC standards. And then she discovered a meter that was 5 times stronger. So it's obviously way out of compliance. The thing that's really sort of sneaky and awful about all of this is that many people, until the smart meter deployment, felt themselves not to be very seriously sensitive to all of these things. People use cell phones all the time, they're using wireless routers, they're not having effects. Boom, a smart meter goes on the house. It's not even deployed in some situations. Sometimes there's no infrastructure. Smart meter goes on the house, we're talking insomnia, ringing in the ears, we're seeing dermatitis reactions, we're seeing increased allergic reactions, we're seeing seizures and nosebleeds in children with these things on the house. People are showing up in their doctor's offices, they're calling me for appointments, they're being put on just innumerable drugs for ADD and anxiety and sleep dysfunction and high blood pressure. Blood pressure goes through the roof, you start having palpitations. This is not a joke. This is happening without the full infrastructure in. So do we know that this is really happening? Well, you know what? The Army has been studying these technologies since the 1960s, and lo and behold, not only did they study their effects because they were using radar, which is the same, and they did find all kinds of really awful health effects and suppress the information. Isn't that surprising, wouldn't you say? Yeah. So in 1998, here's a paper that came out doing a study on so-called non-lethal weapons. And the non-lethal weapons is electromagnetic radiation. So what did they find? Well, gee, the same symptoms that Ole Johansson described in all of his papers on electrosensitivity. Dr. Ole Johansson from the Karolinska Institute, who did all the studies on people in high electromagnetic environments who have all kinds of reactions. Same symptoms are in this paper from the Army. So, this is not difficult to figure out. We're in a situation now where this is a civil rights problem, and Fairfax is now drawing a line in the sand. You've got a government here that's drawing a line in the sand. It has to stop somewhere. If it stops here in Fairfax, we have a chance of stopping it in communities so people will have a safe place to live. Otherwise, we're living.
Good evening, everybody. It's great to see this room full. My name is Josh Hart. I'm director of StopSmartMeters.org. We started our organization about a year ago, and our website is now, if you do a Google search for smart meters, it comes up about number 3, which pleases us, not so much PG&E. But because of this, we are absolutely more inundated than ever with people, not only from California, but across the country in places where they're deploying smart meters. People desperate, reporting all these illnesses. So many emails that we don't have time to respond to them. If you can help out, we need help because we're just getting absolutely flooded. This is real. It's happening now. There have been thousands of written complaints to the Public Utilities Commission. I want to make clear something that in Santa Cruz County, before they started deploying, PG&E sent a circular to every single resident of the county saying that smart meters are green, that they will be a solution to climate change. The reality is very, very different. PG&E is lying about this. The smart meters consume a hell of a lot of energy that the resident is going to be expected to pay for. The manufacture of these meters, the running of the server farms to store all your private data, these are major consumers of energy and will require the construction of new power plants. The claims of the utility industry just do not hold up. So that rationale, it does not hold water. I was riding yesterday from Larkspur Ferry, riding my bicycle through San Anselmo, and over the past year I've developed electro-hypersensitivity for whatever reason, and I can tell you it's no fun. Being in the city at the PUC meeting yesterday, I had a sharp headache in my temples. Coming through San Anselmo, that headache was still there. All the smart meters, I felt fatigue, just a general sense of malaise. And pulling into Fairfax and West Marin, I had this vision. I don't know if you guys have read the story of Asterix, but this is a story of prehistory where this one little village in the corner of Gaul held out against the Roman invaders, these imperialists, and the reason that they were able to was because of this magic potion that they had that made them super strong. And I had this vision of Fairfax and West Marin being this last bastion, because you are the last area in California to be mostly smart meter free still. And the reality is that you have that potion already. You have that power. You just need to discover how to pull together, how to organize, and we have the power together to stop PG&E in their tracks, forcing these things onto us. The reality is that no one is going to solve this problem for us. Not the CPUC, not the state legislators who have sponsored false health studies carried out by the industry, not even the Fairfax City Council or Stop Smart Meters. It's something that you as individuals and as a community must stop yourself. And this is how to do it. Number one, everyone in this room and everyone you know needs to send do not consent letters to PG&E. Their sample letters are on our website, they're top right. You can send them certified mail. They will have no way to say that your consent was implied. As a private property owner or a resident or renter, you have the right to say no, period. Lock up all meters that cannot be guarded or watched over during the day. This is your right to protect your health and safety. Appoint a captain on each block in the town of Fairfax, everywhere. Someone who's at home most of the day, perhaps a retiree, to make sure that they watch out for PG&E trucks, for Wellington trucks, for unmarked trucks who may be installing smart meters, and call people who might be there. That person should have signed affidavits from every single resident on the street so that they can tell the Wellington installer and be backed up by the police to get off the property. Generate a community call list so that everyone has everyone's number, so that if anyone sees a Wellington truck, they can immediately call everyone and notify the telephone tree to mobilize them, to get them to return to their home and to drive Wellington or PG&E from the neighborhood. Organize a town watch, which is already in action. It needs to be extended and strengthened. A call list, a group of people willing to respond if PG&E or Wellington comes into town in any force. And people willing to take personal, peaceful, direct action to block these trucks from installing. Knock on every door in town. Split it up. Divide the town into quadrants and make sure everyone gets a knock on the door or a door hanger to know what to do. Call the delay line, send a letter, lock up your meter, organize. No one should assume that everyone knows how dangerous these things are or how to prepare for attempted installations. And finally, there are already smart meters in the town of Fairfax and West Marin. It is your right as a resident, it is your right as a community member to hire an electrician, to purchase an analog meter, and to remove that smart meter that you never consented to in the first place, and to replace an analog meter. That smart meter should be kept in a box. If PG&E requests it, technically they claim it's their property, even though we're paying for it through increased rates. And the smart meters that are already in town, you have a right to remove them as a community. What happens in Fairfax and West Marin is critical. This is the last place in PG&E territory that is mostly smart meter free. And this is a place where people who are electrosensitive, which is a growing number of us, can live in safety. So I guarantee you that the utility industry, that Pacific Gas and Electric, that the rest of the country and the industry is keeping a close eye on what happens here. And it not only matters for yourselves and your lives and the future generations of Fairfax residents, this is an issue that will carry over and have huge implications for the future of the rest of the country and the world. So this is your ed. This is really important. Thank you.
I live in Point Reyes Station, and I'm now program director of Alliance for Human and Environmental Health, which is a nonprofit that we formed after we got involved in the smart meters. Basically, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. The reason I was concerned about the smart meters was initially because of the health effects. But what really drove me to want to take direct action was the fact that this was a violation of our constitutional rights. The fact that they were coming in, a corporation was coming in and putting a device on my house without my consent. That just crossed the line for me. And when moms get angry, they get angry. So I decided to start organizing along the lines of what Josh said. And I saw a lot of you kind of looking overwhelmed when he was talking about what you can do. And it's really not that difficult. All you need to do, I mean, what I did is I walked up and down my street. I talked to my neighbors. I know a lot of them already. And you'd be surprised at the support you'll get. 99% of people do not want smart meters. And it doesn't matter what political stripe. They just don't want it for different reasons. We set up a phone tree. We met, I found people who are willing to do direct action. And that doesn't mean you're getting arrested. It means you're willing to stand in support of others who might want to get arrested, or that you're willing to block trucks, things like that. It does not mean, you're going to get in trouble or anything. It's just being supportive and coming together as a community. We actually had a circuit. I don't know if you guys have heard, but they came right after Christmas, Wellington into Inverness, and we called our phone tree, and we got 30 people within 1 hour in the street. Called the press. We had a press release. Josh helped us too, and we basically 2 of us got arrested, and they didn't come back. I mean, they will come back, but they didn't come. They left us alone for a while, and it was all over the press and all over, even nationally. So it was really very empowering as a community coming together and saying no. And it sends a very clear message to PG&E that we're not going to tolerate their campaign of misinformation, their bullying, and their rolling over our constitutional rights to health, safety, and privacy. I want to really inspire you, not just to rely on your city council. I mean, Larry's doing everything he can, but I think it's really important as a community to come together. It's so important to stand up and fight, to show PG&E that you're not going to take this. We need to come together in our communities and fight corporations that are trying to undermine our constitutional rights, because if we don't fight it now, what's next? What is next? I mean, they're putting these things in our homes. These are basic human rights. They're property rights. It's not about being a rebel to do direct action. It's about taking back your power. It's direct action is empowering, it's inspiring, it brings community together, and community is subversive to corporations because they're counting on us to stay in front of our TVs and be apathetic. That's what they're counting on. So we need to not do that. Come together. This is our big weapon. Community is our big weapon. I know in Fairfax you have a wonderful cohesive community, as we do in West Marin. And like Josh said, we're kind of the last bastion, and we can make a big deal about this. And it's possible. And I think staying optimistic and knowing that it's possible. People tend to collapse when they hear about, oh no, how can we do this? PG&E is such a big corporation. It is possible, and I know that. Like Tom Hartman says, we in America have become a me society. We've been sold the concept of individuality over everything. And there are a lot of good things to that, but the downside is that we lose touch with our neighbors and their needs, and the importance of community and the importance of coming together. And I think we have to think about the radio frequency mesh network. This is not just about not having a smart meter on your house. This is about not having a smart meter in your neighborhood and in your community. So we need to look out for our neighbors. So anyway, I think I'm almost done. So just be proud of where you live and be willing to fight for it. And remember that it's an empowering fight, and that the only way that Westmoreland and Fairfax are going to keep PG&E out is through community cohesion. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. On August 4th, 2010, the Fairfax Town Council unanimously passed the first smart meter moratorium in the state of California. And since then, over 2.5 million Californians live in jurisdictions that have followed suit. So we have made progress with this issue and with this fight. It's not just about Fairfax. It's not just about West Marin. There's a lot of people that are concerned about this issue. Why? Well, I'll just give you my perspective from a local government point of view. In Fairfax, we've had a wireless telecommunications ordinance since 1998. So when this first came down, we had a long-standing ordinance, and the telecommunication companies that wanted to construct towers in Fairfax complied with it. That ordinance requires that they get a use permit, that there be notice to the community, that the community be able to weigh in, that there be certain design standards built into the devices, that the devices not be located near schools, daycare, that type of thing. When the PG&E project first came to our attention in about June of 2010, we thought we were heading it off. We thought we were a little bit ahead of the train. But after we passed the ordinance on August 4th, 2010, we found out that PG&E had erected a series of 4 or 5 data collection units. What are data collection units? Data collection units are not large, but there are powered devices that collect the data from the meters. So before the meters were ever installed, we had a series of essentially microwave transmission devices installed throughout Fairfax without any notice to the town of Fairfax, without going through the use permit process, without giving the community notice of what was done, nothing. And this we only found out after we passed the ordinance. So when you talk about rights, one of the things that has always struck me is that it really is a tyranny of technology being imposed on us by corporations in violation of local democracy. Telecommunication companies like Verizon and others have complied with local telecommunication ordinances in California. Why is PG&E exempt by the CPUC? Why are they treated differently by the CPUC? There really is no answer. There's assertions that are made by varying attorneys that represent PG&E and the CPUC, but frankly, it's an open question of law. And when you hear a public official say it's the CPUC's jurisdiction or it's PG&E's jurisdiction, they really don't know what they're talking about because the courts have not made a ruling in this regard. Traditionally, local governments have authority to legislate to control the health and safety of their residents, and secondarily, to control public rights of way. If you look at a budget statement or an audit statement for the town of Fairfax, you'll find out that our biggest asset is our public rights of way. Public rights of way include sidewalks, streets, and the land around them. These are valuable assets. These are public assets. And when a private corporation uses them, in generally, they owe deference to the owner of that asset, the owner of that right-of-way, which in this case is the town of Fairfax. That was not done. So when we're talking about community, we're not just talking about neighborhoods, we're actually talking about the offense that this program does to local democracy, to the ability of people in a democratic society to organize under our state and federal constitution to get representation by elected officials. And this program completely pushed that aside. As far as health and safety of residents is concerned, we know there are certain residents that are electromagnetically sensitive. We know that. We know there's statistical analysis that shows there's a certain percentage of the population that may get sick by exposure to RF. And the council felt that as a precaution to protect our residents and the minority of residents who may be affected by this, that we had a constitutional right under the California Constitution, which gives us the right to protect public health and safety, to make a regulation to stop the deployment of these devices until we had definitive information one way or the other. We're also obligated as a city to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Administrative bodies that administer the Americans with Disabilities Act have stated that electromagnetic sensitivity may be a recognized disability under the ADA. So there's a whole host of constitutional issues that are violated by this program. And I know I've got a limited amount of time. We have made progress. When we started, we were the first. Now there's 2.5 million people that are covered by similar ordinances. Last March, the PUC ordered that PG&E come up with an opt-out program. So we've gone from being completely locked out of the room to having a voice to right now we are engaged in the CPUC process to come up with a fair opt-out program. There's a lot of controversy about the program because with a mesh network, you can't really opt out unless jurisdictions are allowed to opt out. Because if I opt out and my neighbors don't opt out, I'm still going to be inside a mesh network. I'm still going to be exposed to RF. Our ask to the CPUC is to allow jurisdictional opt-out. I don't know how well it's going to be received. Last point is the proposal made by PG&E for its opt-out was that customers could either pay $270 up front and then pay $14 a month forever, or pay $135 a month and then pay $20 a month forever. And this conflicts with equal protection of the law. And that protection of the law is actually embedded in our state statute under Public Utility Code Section 453B, which forbids a utility from charging a higher rate to anybody based on the fact that they have a medical condition. So I feel that the PG&E proposal, not only is it unfair, it probably violates that statute. And we're going to be going to the CPUC and trying to make a case to the CPUC that the utility network and our electrical grid will be strengthened if we're allowed to have diversity within it. That the order from on high ordering a monopoly of wireless has actually made us more vulnerable from a security point of view, from a privacy point of view, and for certain among us, a health point of view. And we're going to be trying to make the case that if you allow a diversity of technology, you will strengthen the grid, you'll strengthen community, you'll strengthen local democracy. So thank you very much.
Along those lines, I just want to announce, I meant to do this earlier, but I want to announce that this Wednesday in San Francisco at the Public Utilities Commission, 505 Van Ness, there will be an all-day workshop that will be held in the main auditorium from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., where the various parties will argue their point, the utilities will argue theirs, and an administrative law judge will hear these arguments. The public is able to attend that same day, this coming Wednesday at 12:30. We will be holding a mass protest and press conference. I urge you all to attend and to bring signs and to show your outrage about this program. It's critical that we have a large turnout. So it's this Wednesday, September 14th, 12:30. If you can take the whole day off and come to the workshop, listen to these outrageous proposals by PG&E to charge us rates to protect our health, this extortion. Be a part of that and hear what's going on and be involved.
Give the address, please.
505 Van Ness, San Francisco. It's the corner of Van Ness and McAllister. It's the building with the large State of California seal on the front, kitty corner from City Hall. That info is also right at the front of our website, stopsmartmeters.org.